Welcome to the Timeout, presented by CDMs.
What's going on? It's your boy Deuce Wayne.
It's Big Merv in the building. You already know what's going on.
Yes, sir. We are back for another edition of the Timeout, bro. Timeout presented by CDMs, like Merv said, and this is going to be a great thing because usually, if y'all know and y'all subscribe to the CDMs podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube, we usually discuss a variety of topics within the franchise, review certain movies, kind of give a little run by of the films. But with the timeouts, we really go in depth. We really discuss the movie and do a deep dive. And there's two great films that Merv and I have watched that we want to discuss. But before we get to that, Merv, man, we are about to enter the month of July. It's been a great year of movies, 2026 thus far. We already talked about in the last episode where we said, is cinema back? Because it's looking good at the box office. A lot of healthy numbers when it comes to movies and their outputs. Of course, there's still some flops. I know Supergirl is underperforming right now. There's certain movies that are not doing the best, but TV shows are hitting at an all-time high. Movies, people are back in the theaters again. There's a lot of great options to choose from. It's not just superhero movies. There's different genres that are doing well and excelling. I think it's a great time for cinema. What are some of the best films that you're looking forward to in this next month? Because July seems like it's jam-packed.
July is the month of heat, fam. As you know, the month of July is a hot one. Obviously, it's my birthday, so it's going to be litty, of course. But it also is heating up at the movie theaters with Supergirl that just came out. We got The Odyssey coming out. Bop, bop, bop. We got Spider-Man, Brand New Day coming out at the end of the month. Personally, I said those three because I'm the most excited about those ones. But the one I'm most excited about, really and truly, is The Odyssey. Christopher Nolan is my dog, a big dog. And so I'm always excited. And after learning about the Greek gods and the story behind Odysseus, I was like, yeah, this movie's going to be serious. So I'm locked in, ready to go. That's what I'm looking forward to. What about you?
For me, I mean, those are great films, obviously. Brand New Day, we talked about the trailer. And the press tour, man, Zendaya and Tom Holland outside popping off like they a young Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie out here being cute and everything in the media. It's cool to see how that translates for both their films in terms of Brand New Day and also The Odyssey. You know what? I'm not gonna lie, bro. I was excited for Toy Story 5, so the fact that that came out was awesome, kind of cool for us. Our nostalgia vibes, that classic, reiterating that franchise. I think it's gonna be a number 6 because it's going crazy at the box office right now. Yo, I'm excited for this movie called The Invitation with Seth Rogen, a really good original comedy that's gonna be coming out. It's like Penelope Cruz in it and a whole bunch of people in it. It's a great cast. I'm excited to see that one. Oh, live action Moana. I mean, it's going to do numbers, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it. So that's coming out. I know it's going to be exciting for some of the kids out there. There are some disappointing movies as well. There's great ones, but there are also some very underwhelming ones. Personally, bro, I just saw the new Death of Robin Hood, and it was a reiteration and retelling of Robin Hood's story. Hugh Jackman, I thought, did a great job in terms of just his portrayal, but honestly, it was so far away from the lore of Robin Hood and the mythology that to me, it took me out of the movie because I'm like, I'm here to see a Robin Hood movie. It just felt like a movie about an old man who was filled with regrets, which is fine, but then I could just look to a movie like Logan where I've seen him do that at a high level. Or we could look at movies like Prisoner, where you see a man who tragedy strikes and he's broken down and he has to be resilient. And he finds his way through pain by frustration and anger and resiliency. So I left there disappointed, kind of underwhelming. I know we had a scary movie episode that should be coming out. I don't want to disrespect the culture or anything like that. There were some funny moments in the movie, but I think Scary Movie ultimately was like a disappointing watch for me when I left the theater.
Yes.
I'm not trying to, be on no hate train, but are there any movies that you've seen recently where you're like, it wasn't really for me?
A few movies I've seen. So Scary Movie 6, as you just said, I want to bash the Wayne's Bros or the culture or anything like that, but it just wasn't hitting like I felt like it was going to or should have. And honestly, not gonna lie, I expected it. I expected that it would be like that. So the disappointing part is kind of hard because I wasn't disappointed because I knew what it was gonna be. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But the other one that I would say I wasn't disappointed. Again, I would say I was not underwhelmed. Like just I didn't think it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be a better movie. Disclosure Day, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed Disclosure Day, but I thought it was gonna be more grandiose, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like bigger.
You're right.
I mean, more of a, I don't know, something like a oomph. You know what I mean? Like I just felt like it was a good movie. Don't get me wrong, but I just
Great
felt like
performances.
it was just missing something. I don't know what. Don't get me wrong, movie, but I just don't feel like it was like a my 4 out of 5 or like 4.5 out of 5 kind of movie. You know what I mean? Unfortunately,
I don't even think it's top three Spielberg alien movies. I mean, we've seen him tackle the Spielberg, E.T. We've seen him tackle, the classics, and I think that this is one of the ones that kind of fell short. But the performances were good. I saw what he was trying to do. He's trying to say, what if there were aliens on Earth, but we actually had like a partnership? It wasn't like the typical we're trying to hurt them and they're trying to hurt us. It's more like we're gonna work together. And I felt like it was just too optimistic for our times. And then also, logistically, some of the things just didn't make sense. But I think Emily Blunt, whoa, I'm talking about her back
She
must have been
killed
hurting.
it. So,
Her back must have been hurting because she carried that. And Josh O'Connor did this thing too. But
yeah,
like you said, I definitely felt like it was a letdown for me personally. Like,
nah,
man, I think you used a great word, grandiose. Like I was like, oh, okay. I feel like someone else could have made this.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I did a little research and I saw that in the 70s. And we've done like a 70s episode on CDMs, I think in season 2 or 3. You guys should check it out. But I saw somewhere where they said like the best horror year, except for discussion, really is a whole bunch. 1978 was really
Yeah.
good. They had Halloween, you had Dawn of the Dead, you had The Deer Hunter, you had I Spit on Your Grave, you had Invasion of the Body Snatchers. 1982 was peak for practical effects because you had The Thing, you had The Poltergeist, you had Friday the 13th Part 3, and you had Creepshow. There's no like distinctive year, but those are kind of the best years. Man, this year so far, we've had The Backrooms, we have Obsession, we have Hokum, we've had Leviticus. I'm missing a couple other ones if you want to count Screen 6. There's been a whole plethora of horror films. Do you think this is going to be shaping up to be one of the better horror film years of our lifetime? Or again, is that recency bias? Or like, what do you think?
I feel like there's been in the last couple of years a resurgence of horror films. I felt like that we got stagnant because we kind of desensitized to some of the horror that we've been seeing over the years, and it had to be changed. You know what I mean? Like in every kind of decade, I feel like there's a change. Obviously, Saw was a changing moment. Then Purge was a changing moment. But I feel like these last, like definitely like 4 or 5 years, man, they've just been pumping out good horror films. So it would be hard for me to say if this year stands up as the best because some of the ones that you already mentioned I haven't seen. Based on some of the reactions from the horror movie lovers that I know, I would say that it is doing a really good job this year of horror. But I think that we're maybe just focusing on it more horror than we were before because I feel like there was a lot of movies recently that I didn't see until I recently saw them. People spoke to me that loved horror. They're like, yeah, I've been seeing this movie and this movie was great during this year and this year. You know what I mean? That's one reason I'll say that I can't really say whether it's one of the best, but I would say that they've been doing one hell of a job personally this year. So
Facts. You made a great point about from decade to decade they change the styles or the variation of how they depict these horror films and people's takes on it. And I would say recently, I think we're in a phase of elevated psychology horror, like psychological horror. A lot of things is more mental. It's not necessarily always have to be physical. Of course, there's a couple slasher films. Hard Eyes came out last year that we thought was pretty
yeah,
unique, and a couple violent films like that. But for the most part, a lot of these films have to deal with just more so the scariness inside of one's mind, inside of just like a physical entity. And I
yeah,
really, really like that because I think a lot of people are struggling when it comes to how we perceive the world, what type of things are happening, and how we combat ourselves with them. And I think it's very unique that filmmakers are able to kind of be reflective of what happens in the real world into the films. That just brings us to our point. Like when you think about a movie Obsession, man, one of those things where I find really interesting because in the contemporary form of like modern horror, it's weird that you don't have to have a director necessarily come from Hollywood. You make the right connections, you go through the right system, and eventually someone will give you a shot. And that's
Mhm.
usually how the blueprint used to be back in the day. But nowadays, we're living in a completely different era where some of the most exciting filmmakers are coming from YouTube. They're coming from TikTok. They're coming from these independent spaces where they've been able to kind of sharpen their tools and sharpen their voice and build an audience before the industry even notices, right? And I think that's the cool thing. You always kind of had those, but even then, these guys were still film student buffs. And I think Curry Baker directing Obsession is just an example of one of those filmmakers who just grinded from the underground.
Yeah,
And he made his own path and secured it. Merv, as you know, I think you follow him as well, but he's been making online comedy and awkward social situations and horror and doing that through his brand Milk and Cereal. And
yeah,
I think it's been really impressive that he's built a consistent following over time. And a
yeah,
lot of things that makes his horror work, I think, work and successful is the timing, it's the tension, it's the discomfort. Like he's really good with the little details in the human behavior. You can have someone go from super unsettling to super funny in a split second. But let's talk about Obsession, bro. Did you see the trailer for this? Did you know anything about it going into it, or was it one of those things where was it word of mouth? Like, what made you want to see this film? Because I know, again, we don't really watch trailers like that. I don't think we posted this one on CDM, so I think this one was one that kind of caught us by surprise. It wasn't like one where we were like, oh, we're gonna watch Obsession in 5 months, or this movie releases at this date, and we're gonna,
Yeah.
So, what was your thoughts on how you approached watching this film?
I saw the trailer on Twitter. I saw it through discussing films. I don't remember what the name of it's called, that page.
Mm.
They always post trailers and stuff like that. They showed a trailer for this movie, was really good, and the horror was crazy, bro. I can't even tell you the date of like when I sent it to my brother and my other brother, and we're like, "Yo, we gotta go see this." And I just remember the moment. I'm like, yo, like that's crazy. And then when the movie came out, I was like, oh, let me go see it, because I saw it was the same thing, but I never saw a new trailer. All I saw was the very first trailer where he was in the car and he was saying like, yo, like how do I make her like fall out of love with me? Like, is it real? All that stuff that he did in that one scene, like that was all in the
Yeah.
trailer. And I saw it and I was like, bro, this sounds like creepy. And I'm thinking like, how are they gonna make this into a great movie? You know what I mean? And that's all I saw. And then I
Yes.
went into the movie blind, and outside of that, and I totally forgot about it. I was like, okay, sent it to the brothers. We're like, yo, we gotta go see this. Totally forgot about it. I don't remember when I saw it. I was trying to look for it on my phone, and then when the movie came out, I was like, oh, I gotta go see this. And I was in Portugal at the time. I'm like, oh, let me go just watch it. You know what I mean? They said it's a horror, or whatever, so maybe. And then yeah, fam, it turned into one of the most epic horror films I've ever seen in my life. So I don't know. Still, I think going into movies blind is like the best way to go personally. You see the teaser trailer and then go from there. I think that's the best way to go about it. Still,
Yeah, I'm a fan. I know we talk about trailers and how they put too much things in the trailer. I think I like teaser trailers. Nice little minute, 18-second little John. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Or The Digger, when we talk about Tom Cruise. I thought that was enough for me to like, okay, I'm interested.
yeah,
Like it's Tom Cruise. I'm not gonna buy a ticket to go see this film. He's eccentric. He has high energy. What's it about? I don't know. But guess what? I gotta go find out to go see. So
Mhm.
I like teaser trailers. I think that's a good point. Obsession, bro. When I walked out this theater, I immediately texted you, voice noted you. I'm like, gang, this is one of them. And again, I know recency bias, etc. We watch a lot of films, so I feel like we have a good gauge on the culture, or a good gauge on like what we like and prefer in certain films and what we deem successful. And I know movie watching is very subjective, but I generally think that when there's a general consensus that this film works, like it's eventually could become a classic if it has that staying power too, right? If it has that reoccurring power and it has that ability to make people have that locker room type of discussion that we always speak on. You look at Obsession, man. I walked out there just, my mind was blown simply because, like you mentioned, I think it was a very unique thing to be able to make a story work and execute it when it's a simple premise. That's just a simple tagline. Like, you have one wish, you make a wish. Like we've seen that before. The genie, Aladdin, like there's so many things that people have wishes. How can you build a whole hour and 45-minute or hour and 30-minute movie off that one concept? And I think they successfully delivered. So when you talk about originality, I walked out there like, I haven't really seen nothing like this before. When you
yeah,
talk about relatability and connectivity, bro, we've all had a situation where we've wished that we've had this or that. And then especially when you're younger, I know for me in high school or just in middle school, if I had a crush on a shorty, I would definitely be thinking like, dang, I wish it would be, or even the crushes I would have in like the industry when it comes to like certain singers, like, man, I love Rihanna. I wish I could. There's so many times where you could really have that. To see that wish turn dark, oh nah. So I think they really did a great job of like connecting us with the concept, but
yeah.
also building off it, like you said. What were your initial thoughts? We're going to get into the deep dive. I'll give a review of it in a second in terms of the breakdown and synopsis. But what were your initial thoughts when you left the theater?
Well, one, before I say that, I sent it to my family March 11th,
Mm,
March 11th, and totally forgot about it until the movie
right.
came out. Right. But initially, when I saw the film, I thought absolute cinema. First of all, the reason I felt that way is
I want to see their reaction. I want it like, yo, mom, let's go see it together. Yo, Cinco, let's go see it together. Yo, whoever, let's go see it together. My teammate, coach, like, yo, you saw it? Like, let's talk about it, because sitting there and like you mentioned, the unsettling nature of how it makes you feel, how creepy it is, seeing other people jump at certain moments or feel that certain experience. I'm like, yeah, man, this is what cinema is built for. It makes people really feel things. So I think I haven't had a feeling like this in a while where I was like, no, you have to go see this. Like, I don't care if I'm taking you personally. Like, you should go see this week. Oh, you haven't seen Obsession? You're bugging, bro. You're tweaking. When it comes to like when you left the theater, did you think that you had to watch it again immediately, or did you think you understood it, or you think you wanted to put people on?
I think personally, I was just, yo, I need somebody else to see this. I need somebody else to see this. Whether it was obviously we talked, and I was like, damn, I finally get to talk to somebody about it. but I just needed more people to see it so that I could have a conversation about it. You know what I mean? And be like, I need to go check this out. I don't know. I felt like I had to bring Tay with me. I was like, yo, you have to go see this.
Right.
Like you have to, and just see like a woman's perspective of watching it. Because obviously, as a man, it's like a male horror in a way, but it's also a female horror as well because of certain things. So like I was just like, wow, like it really hit every part that it's supposed to. So that's why I enjoyed it the most, and I thought that immediately I needed somebody else's perspective and somebody else to watch it. So
What makes this film so viral right now is that it was made for roughly $750,000. It's now over $300 million, which is insane to say. It's in an era where studios are spending, hundreds of millions of dollars trying to recreate the best franchise or make the next big franchise. It's always refreshing to see a filmmaker with a strong idea and a character named Bear. So his name is Bear. He's lonely. He's socially isolated. He's a young man who has feelings for Nikki. And who among us, I can't blame him when we're younger. Man, his wish comes true. Nikki falls in love with him, but the love is no longer genuine, bro. It becomes obsessive. It becomes possessive. It becomes terrifying. The woman he thought he'd be able to be with and come to terms with is basically a reflection of his inability to accept rejection. That's what makes Obsession really, really intriguing, is that it's more than just a simple premise of, oh, that's a crazy girlfriend horror movie. Like, we've seen those before. It really examines the relationship in terms of love, in terms of loneliness, entitlement, and the desire to be chosen. And I think that if someone loves you only because you have no other choice, is that even love? And that's one of the biggest things I thought about when I left the theater. I think that's a very uncomfortable question for a lot of people to answer. When you speak about the performances, I mean, they make the idea work, right? I think if you put another actor or actress that we have familiarity with in a deeper stance, it wouldn't hit the same. I like the fact that the guy who played Bear isn't Tom Holland. It's not someone that we have a whole bunch of baggage with. I think that really allowed me to stick with the film too. But Bear is the true villain, bro. He's the villain of the film. He is not a typical villain, but he is the villain of the film. And he's awkward, he's insecure, and I think there's a whole bunch of sadness that he has that makes him really make those choices that are kind of effective in the film. But I think the most important thing about the film is Nikki and her transformations, man. I think like her ability to be tragic, but then also represent some type of loss individually. Like, we talk about the different scenes where he's going through the lunch photos and it is a photo of him and Nikki. And she goes, not me. And there's a photo of him where she's like, you. And it's very telling because that's like her trapped inside trying to tell him like, gang, this is not me, bro. And then you talk about the time where she's sleeping and he's about to leave and she's like, kill me, just kill me now. You talk about the time where he's outside the bathroom and he's like, yo, we're about to pull up, but it's only a boys' night, and she screams and you're like, why did she scream randomly? And then she's like, okay, thank you. And it's like, because that was Nikki screaming in there. And he was on the phone with by the way, had 2 cameos in his own film, Curry Baker. The first one was he played the homeless man when Nikki went to get some money when they left the trivia night, and she ran over to give him some money to show that her character was like a nice character. And the second time is when he was on the phone, when he tried to call for help and he wanted some assistance. And he's like, gang, if you can't cancel it, why would you tell me I can cancel it? That's not how it works, bro. But it was hilarious. But the performances really made this work, and I think that I love the fact that Indy Nevette was able to show the distinctions, even at the car, right? Where she's like, oh, this is crazy. What am I doing? What am I doing? And then she got up and like, no. And then what? Like, there's so many times where she had to play that duality. And I think that was very, very tough, man. I don't think anybody could just do that to show the distinctive differences between, no, this is the trap Nikki and this is the entity speaking.
Bro, I thought the performance by Indy was honestly some of the most terrifying stuff I've ever seen. So realistic, so heartfelt that I really felt like that might be her character for real. Whenever you have me trapped into me questioning what your personality is like, I think that you've done a great job. You know what I mean? You've separated yourself from the character, but also in the same sense, you've made yourself the character, which, you know what I mean, is terrifying in itself. I think that she deserves to get an Oscar nomination for Best Actress in a lead role, without a doubt. I know it's a horror film, but man, the way she did it, I think that and the impact that she's had and how much the movie's made and all the stuff that she's being awarded with now, jobs and things like that. I think that this is very important, and I think that she deserves that based on that, because that's how good her role was. She went from having like only like 20K to $1 million, and after the film came out, so that says a lot too about her performance.
Because she's a person who kind of got stripped of her own agency, and she kind of turned into like the object that exists solely for someone else's emotional needs. So again, Bear was super selfish, especially at the end, right, when he had the opportunity, or he asked her, and then she was like, you know, this is not really me, and he was like, would that be so? He got offended. Like, would that be so? Would that be so?
Would that be so bad?
Difficult? So bad?
Would that be so bad?
All right, say that. I'm gonna keep you trapped in there then. Like I was like, yo, this guy's a sicko for that. The way that Curry Baker was able to set up the comedy, I think, was elite. You talk about the date where he gets a call from Ian. The reason why I brought up like going back to the movies and watching it over and over again is because you pick up on certain things. Like for example, I didn't know like when I first watched the movie, I didn't think Ian was cop blocking. I thought that he was just being a friend on some like, yeah, why would you try to slide on her on trivia night? I thought he was just being that type of friend. Or even
Yeah,
the scene where Nikki and Bear walk into work and he's like, "You dirty dog, like you hit." That wasn't coming from a place of like as a friend, like my man's
you're
got
getting
the got the
jealous.
got the draw. Yeah, it's like wait, you hit? Tell me everything that happened. Tell me more because he was hitting the whole time. Rewatching the movie, I'm like, yo, that's so clever. Like
Yeah,
the
you see the
performance,
differences still.
yeah, and the choice that he had, like it really makes you look at them differently. Even in the car, and he's like, bro, Aaron Carter's talking about it, dude. Everyone's talking about how you're just taking advantage of her. I'm like, like this guy was just probably jealous of like, wait, why is Nikki obsessed with him? And
Yeah,
hooking up
and
this
he
whole
was so
time.
confused by like what happened. He was like so confused and like was in disbelief. If at first it felt like he was just like, but then when you rewatch it, like you said, you're just like, oh, this he wasn't doing it from a place of oh, that's my boy. He was doing it from a place of jealousy or just concern because he was just like, yo, what did you do to her? Because she was just in love with me, type thing. You know what I mean? So
Think he was hilarious in the end when he had the opportunity to save the day, but wasn't believing in the one wish Willow. So then he said, "All right, I wish for $1 billion," and that
yeah,
motherfucker rained $1 billion. That was great. Yeah. What would you say your favorite scenes of the film were? Because I have a couple. I have like top three that stick
I
out to me
mean,
over and over again. I think once it hits the party scene, we're off, bro.
the car scene's obviously number one. Not for, I mean, not in a good way, bad way. I don't know. It's just one of the most intense scenes I've ever seen, honestly, in a
Bro,
film.
what? And I love the cleverness of the script talking about I was on your left. Yeah, you know who else is on your left? The brick fam. That's running out of nowhere. She broke
Son,
the car window. She
son.
repeatedly hit her head into the brick. I was like, nah, this is actually insane. This is great. And she came over, had the audacity to say, but this is your fault though.
No, 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 no. But you wanted this. This is
You
what you
wanted this.
wanted. I was like, oh yeah,
Yo,
bro.
I love the party scene for the simple fact of I can't speak for everybody, but I've been to like those again high school house parties. You know, Truth or Dare, 7 Minutes in Heaven, Spin the Bottle. So even playing those like card games, the Jenga. I've been in those situations on games like you're playing like a Never Have I Ever and all these. That's why they say don't play these kind of games, but they're playing that Jenga game. Boom, bro wanted to switch spots. First, the black guy's hilarious. He said, "Yeah, I want to sit beside Nikki. She's tough." I respected that. You know, the man told him to his face, "Listen, your
I
shot's
want
tough. I
your
want to
thing
sit beside."
still. I want your thing still.
But then when it got passed around, it was Bear's turn. He said, "Kiss the person on your left, bro." The silence, the way the soundtrack cuts off, the way
And
that
you don't
Nikki,
see her face, and you hear the.
you hear the chair, the sound effects. She walks over. She just that yo. The frown was iconic. Like I don't know how many days or if she know if she's Jim Carrey's niche some or how she's able to conduct her face in that manner. But that facial expression with the frown was hilarious, and she just pouted, had her hands over her elbows, and then she pulled the chair back like she was the Hulk. Ended up closing her eyes and bending down for a kiss. It was so psychotic, bro. Oh, I will ever feel the connection that I felt from there, and you guys will die never knowing what it's like to. I'm like, yo, this is hilarious, bro. Then when
Nah,
she got
fam.
up
She
and said,
acted that
she said,
so
I'm joking.
straight.
She said, I'm joking. They said, fine, I'm
You
not
know
joking.
what? I'm not joking. Deal with it. Deal with it.
I said, this is hilarious. There's two other scenes I really like. I like the scene where Bear and Sarah are at work together and they're kind of confiding to each other. Obviously, Sarah about not getting into certain schools, getting accepted. We have Bear, who was just, talking about the inside jokes with the food, the critic, and just talking and supporting her. I thought it was a pivotal moment in the movie because that's where I realized, like, oh, these are the guys that's supposed to be together. And sometimes the person you get so caught up in your own, or what I want, and you look over what you actually need. And Sarah was the proper candidate for him. And we know that because in the beginning of the film, when they're all taking shots and they said, who are we going to toast to? Or what are we going to toast to? And Bear said, yo, let's toast to Sandy. When trivia started, Ian ran off and Nikki followed. Sarah was the only one that stayed back and was like, wait, why are we toasting to Sandy? What happened to Sandy? Such someone who actually genuinely cared. He was like, yo, like, wait, what happened to your cat? Like, why are we toasting to your cat? When we watched the movie, I'm like, oh, this is someone who she liked him the whole time. And that was the one that, again, sometimes you think the grass is greener on the other side or you overlook things. And that was like probably his true soulmate. So I thought that was cool that it all was tied together in the end when you had Nikki kill Sarah, then she put on Sarah's hair. She tattooed herself or tried to makeshift tattoo herself. Like Why don't you love me? That was crazy. And then Merv, I'll say one of the most iconic scenes I think of this film by far. Everyone ever watched you sleep? You ever been on a team bus? You just had that feeling, or on a team plane? You used to do that with 905, bro. We used to, yo,
You
you don't
jump
want to
up.
drop asleep?
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
a man's recording you. Yo, being watched or filmed while you're sleeping is probably the most like 10-10 or 100-100 like most creepiest things or uncomfortable things ever. Even if it's a joke, it's just like, yo, why are you doing that? Like, I be getting tight when teammates do that. Like, all right, gang, haha, I'm sleeping. Like okay,
Yeah, facts. Like
like,
grow up, man.
like all right. But that scene where he wakes up and initially you don't see anything. Again, when you rewatch the movie, you can kind of see a shadow in the back right. But like when you watch it for the first time, you're like, yeah, he's just looking around like Nikki, and then she comes out, no, go back to sleep. You're so cute when you sleep. I was like, yo, why is she talking like that?
Nah,
Then she's
facts.
moving in reverse with the plant. Like that scene right there was an all-time favorite for me. Why don't you love me? Like screaming, like, I don't feel like it's mutual. And then when he's about to leave the bed, she says, stay. I thought
Yeah.
all that was so creepy and unsettling, but I loved it, man. That's like probably my top tier scenes for me personally.
I think the thing that made a lot of those scenes work was the score. I think the score was really well done. The music playing at the same time added a layer of jump to everything. So I think that it was. I agree. Honestly, those scenes were insane. So
Yo, you mentioned a great point about the score. I think what was elite too was the unconventional lighting. Because you look at even the first couple scenes when you had Nikki at the porch, right? And when he made the wish, and then he looks over and is like, "What the f?" And you see Nikki standing at the porch, and it's like how she's lit. I thought was pretty incredible. Even
yeah,
the scene we just
you
talked
never see
about.
her face.
Never see her face, bro. Even the scene we're talking about where she's hiding the plant, like how that was lit was truly incredible. I think they really took advantage of dark spaces and dark angles. And I don't want again be a negative person, but I just watched Office Romance, for example, on Netflix. For example, it was like the lighting just seems so forced and glossy and just unrealistic. Like there has to be some natural darkness. Like if me and you are chopping it up outside, a part of your face is going to be some
Yeah.
shadow. I like that they're able to lean into that and then use it in a suspenseful way. And we had Sarah sitting there, dead body. There's so many different scenes where the lighting, I think, was just elite and they added to it. What was your thoughts on the ending? Because I think the ending, it had me nervous, bro. I'm on such a high right now watching this film. Like, how is he going to land this plane? Like, I know there has to be some type of flaw. I know the third act has to be trash. Like, I was just kind of just being cynical in my head about there's no way this movie is a modern day classic. I'm sitting here watching like our Hereditary or our version of the Blair Witch Project, like our generation type of thing. It landed the plane for me, bro. Like, what were your thoughts on the ending? Because the ending was not a happy ending for everybody. And realistically, at the end of the day, Nikki will probably go to jail for these crimes. Like, no one really truly had a happy ending. Ian got a headshot, caught a crazy bullet to the head. Bear ended up overdosing. Sarah got murdered. All the main characters dead off, like except for Nikki. But like I said, Nikki's future is grim. I even saw an interview where Curry Baker said, "Yeah, like in the real world, she'll be arrested for these crimes."
No,
So, what
that's
were your
it.
thoughts on the ending?
Yeah, I don't think anything's gonna come from it. I think that the ending was perfect. I have no notes. I think that it ended perfectly. I think that there shouldn't be a sequel. I already see what they would do if they did a sequel. It's like somebody has a wish real and they do something, and then they have to go talk to Indy, and she has to tell them like, "Oh, it was I don't know, and this is real, and somebody made a wish, and you go to this dark place, yada yada bullshit." And I guarantee Corey Baker won't be a part of it because he won't want to do it because he won't
Facts.
want to do anything because that's not what he wanted. So I already see how it would play out if they do it, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do. But
Mhm.
I pray to God they don't because it ended perfectly, and I don't think there needs to be any more notes. Some movies just need to be left alone, and that's it.
How genius was it for we talk about in the beginning the subtlety of them putting in the script? They didn't really explain it through exposition, but there was a subtle moment where Nikki initially comes to Bear's house and she's like, "Oh, this is different than I remember, or bigger than I remember." And he was like, "Yeah, my grandma left it for me." And prior to that, his grandma also is the one that had the oxy pills that were in the cabinet because we saw that the cat got into the pills and that's what overdosed.
Yeah,
Ironically, Bear also suffers from the same fate where he overdoses and dies by the same. So I just like the reoccurrence of not only the pain meds, but then also the subtleness of like, yeah, he didn't have to explain my grandma died and that there didn't have to be like a flashback scene. It was just like a subtle thing. And if you paid attention, it would all connect. You understand why he has his own place, why he's living how he's living, why there's oxys even there. Because they're not his oxys. They weren't his oxys. You look on the label, it wasn't subscripted to him. So I like
hmm
that the details in that was pretty cool. And then that scene at the end where again he was unable to use the one wish willow because once you use it once, you can't use it again. So Nikki had one out there, and initially when he tried to overdose and took all those pills, eventually he was like, "Wait, what am I doing?" And I like the scene of him putting the gun in his mouth too, because I'm like, "Oh, he's about to really," and then he's like, "Nah." And when he tried to, call Earl and pull a trig, it's like you heard the sound effects of the One Wish Willow, and that's when Nikki made her wish. You didn't hear what she said, but you could tell what her wish was because we saw Bear, discontinue trying to save himself from killing himself. Gets up and is like infatuated with Nikki in a way we haven't even seen since the beginning. Oh man, and they're finally kissing and they both like love each other equally now. But then he ends up dying, and I thought that was just a perfect, beautiful ending. And then it really showcased her range, like you mentioned, just her performance of being able to be in straight terror and crying, and then also like be like, "What the f? Like, wait, what's the hell?" And get up, and then for the camera to flip on its axis, and we're going upside down, and goes to the retro TV, and it says the end. I thought it was a beautiful chef's kiss to just a nice ribbon on a great original horror. So, do you think that it'll be one of those films that in 10, 15, 20 years will be like, this was one of the better horror films on some Blair Witch Project, and just how, because of the lore of how it was made, the success of how much money it made, the performances involved, the story involved, do you think it'll be something that we'll be talking about in the future?
I think that it's made such a cultural impact that it'll be one of those movies that will be talked about in the sense of it may have changed things or it just was a Kickstarter for, getting people back onto horror movies and things like that. And it happened with some people that get into horror movies and then they become a big star off it. And I think Indy's on their way, just based on that alone. So I think it should be exciting to see where this places or ranks in like 5 years, 10 years from now. You know what I mean? So I'm
Facts.
excited
All
for
right.
it.
We're about to get into the back room, but really quickly, like we always do, I wanted to ask you, who was the MVP of the film and who was the sixth man you think of Obsession? I asked you who the DPOI is, but I already know it's Ian, cop blocker of the year, so I'm gonna say him, defensive
Yeah,
player of the year.
easily. I would say MVP would probably be Indy for sure. I think that her role in it, like, just encapsulated everything that Obsession is as a movie. And I think that she did such a great job. I would say the sixth man, I mean, there's only really four main characters, but I think somebody that was super important that kind of was a one quick, you know what I mean? I think it was the second worker at the store that explained and we like joked around with Bear before, and he's like, "So what's
Mm,
wrong with you, dog?" Like, but he's just like, "Yo, don't get upset at me because your wish became true." And she's like in love
yeah.
with you and all stuff. He's like, "I already made my wish and all stuff."
Yeah.
And then it made you think like, "Oh, what was his wish? Why is he so
Mm,
fine and dandy? Why is he happy? Like, why is nothing wrong? You know what I mean? Like,
that's a good
what
point.
was his wish?" So there is wishes. Then I started thinking, I was like, "Oh, so there is wishes that you can make that won't affect anybody." You know what I mean?
Facts.
And it will just better you, and then it made me think a lot. So I think that his appearance, and his explanation and his like quick wittedness and all that stuff, I think that he played a little lore accurate way of like showing another sense of how the Wish Willow works. Because the only other one we got was Bear and Ian, and
Right.
Ian was about money, so it was like whatever. But then this guy, you don't know. He's still working. He's
Hmm.
still working as this guy at a store, so it must not be billions of dollars. So what could it have been that he wished for and he already got his wish and he's perfectly fine? You know what I mean? That he can
Yeah.
like joke around about the wish willow and everything like that. That he didn't have a bad experience with it, so he doesn't even think it's like a bad thing. You know what I mean? So
Facts.
I don't know. So that's why I'd say he's a six-man person.
I like the combination of how each scene where Barry was speaking to one of the, people that were helping him pay or get the one wish willow. It was funny. I think that's an example of like Curry Baker being a YouTube guy. That could just been like a regular scene of him paying for something, but it was always something funny. The girls on the Bluetooth the whole time didn't know if she was talking to him or talking to her friend. Then even the like awkward dialogue they had at the end, and then like you said, even with him and that one guy, I thought that it did so much in that moment. Like, yes, it was funny banter and it was hilarious, but you gained so much information from that dialogue alone. For me, just to switch it up, I'd probably go MVP for the guy who played Bear, only because I think he did a great job of, again, he's not one of those like, oh, this guy's a bad guy for sure. Like, he just reminds me of those guys that he played it in a way where people can leave the film and actually think like, nah, what did he do wrong? But it's like, no, he's evil, bro. Like, but it's just like the way he played it. I felt like he was just so nerdy and so innocent. Why is this happening to me type of thing when it's not really taking accountability for everything that happened. Fresh new actors like I can like really become fans of. But like I think you're right. I think Indy did an incredible job and she's gonna take off. For six man, I'm gonna have to go with Curry
Mhm.
Baker. I'm gonna go with the coach, man. I'm gonna go with the guy who made this all happen. Only because I heard a couple stories. Like I heard something about they said they wanted him to change the ending and make it like a happier ending. And I heard he even got
Like
offered two
Bear the
million.
hero, yeah.
Yeah, offered $2 million to do that. And I could imagine someone in his stage of life would, hey man, You give you 2 mil just do anything how you want it. Say less.
Yeah.
But he stuck true to his guns and his principles and his core values, and I think that's pretty cool. And it helped make the movie have the lore that it has and the effect and impact that it'll have. So I like that he was able to have that, no happy ending type of thing. And again, young filmmakers who probably aren't millionaires would, usually take that advice from the studio and take that money. So I
I'm not
like
gonna
that.
lie, still 2 mil might have been. What'd you say? You said where? Oh,
You said what?
okay.
You said
But
Beartooth
nah,
Superman Ever?
I feel him still because you don't want to ruin it. But I get that. Still, I get that for sure.
Facts. All right, bro. Let's move on to the Backrooms, bro. 2026. The story of the Backrooms is an interesting one as well. I feel like both these horror films are films that derived out of nowhere, but also in a place that was unconventional. Kane Parsons is fascinating because one of his journeys to becoming a filmmaker is also similar to the trajectory of what happened with Curry Baker, but Kane is well known as Kane Pixels online. And when he was a teenager, he released the Backrooms videos on YouTube. And he used a lot of tools like Blender and visual effects software. Just like took a simple picture because that's how it started, bro. It started off with like a creepy
It's a
pasta.
real tale story. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was having
And
renovations. Yeah.
facts. And of that photo of an endless yellow office space, and he turned it into something that felt like strangely real. And I thought it was like real genius behind it. Just the fact that he was able to do that. We talk about, again, taking simple premises and umbrellaing it and taking in something more and building off of it, evolving it. He understood that fear is not always what comes directly what's in front of you. I think the biggest thing about this film that I loved is that something that we should be familiar with, but still feel slightly wrong. So whether that's a hallway, an empty space, this movie is doing crazy. I think it's one of A24's most successful films ever. Backrooms, I think, was made for under $10 million, and it's already over $300 million worldwide. And I think this number is even old too. It's probably surpassed that by a lot. The film did a solid job of expanding on the mythology of what the online series was, where a lot of people who were fans of it could understand, follow it, knew about the lore of the Backrooms and being trapped inside the endless maze and identical spaces and stuff like that. But for a lot of people like us who weren't really familiar and weren't really tapped into the Backroom series in the 2010 era on YouTube, I was watching different stuff, Wiz Khalifa, Little Rain and stuff. I feel like it did a decent enough job of getting me locked into the film, but I'm curious about what your thoughts are of the film.
I thought the movie was interesting. I would say that it wasn't disappointing because I had no expectations. I just was kind of left. If anybody follows me on Letterboxd, you see that I just put a reply. I mean, my review for the movie was like 20 question marks because I was so confused. Not in the sense of like it was linear, but it just didn't make sense what was there. You know what I mean? Like I think that was the problem. Like everything else made sense, kind of, but it's just that part didn't make the Backrooms part didn't make sense. You know what I mean? So essentially, this guy who owns a mattress shop finds this like secret passageway into an endless building of like space, like just different spaces where there's like stairs, there's a pool, there's this, there's that. You know what I mean? There's a bunch of different things that are in this space. As he goes further, which again, I don't know why he decided to do that as a black man. As a black man, we always go away from danger. Obviously, this movie was fake. That was the first thing right there. But he travels further into the maze of the Backrooms. Actually, like becomes like too much into it. You know what I mean? Like gets infatuated with it and just like the experience of it and what it means and yada yada yada. He like kind of gets like lost in there to the point where his therapist, who has been helping him out, has to follow him into the Backrooms after Clark takes two of his students with him, Bobby and Kat. Are not students, sorry, some of his workers with him with their camera to go into the back rooms, and then they get lost essentially because this man Bobby gets eaten by something which we don't know. But come to find out, it is a variation or a copy of 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 Clark as the pirate that the mattress store. It just doesn't make sense. The Backrooms is just like a layer upon layer of layer of like of our world, and it just mirrors everything. But it's like an Us situation, but instead of it being only one pair, it's like our one duplicate. It's like a duplicate of 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 a duplicate, and it just keeps going and going and going forever. Essentially, they never said they said that they're still finding new levels each time they travel into it as the government came. So anyway, the movie makes no sense, but that's pretty much it, and it's just kind of scary because of there is a monster in there, which is Clark's
Yeah.
mirrored, I guess, like consciousness. Clark kind of gets into it too much and feels like his world has no control, so he can control this world. So he decides to like kind of like trap his therapist down there and like try to live down there and like stay down there. It just yeah. It's not a great movie now, but it did it.
I think it one of those metaphorical movies, obviously for trauma, depression, all these different things. Us being our biggest enemies, getting in the way of our own selves. I do like how the reflection part of it is like, because I know me personally, I have poor memory, so I know sometimes when you try to remember like, oh, this is my grandma's sofa, and then like the more decades that go by, you might remember it a little bit differently with a little different detail to
Yeah.
it. So I like that aspect of like, oh, in our mental, deep down in our conscious, like when we think about certain things, whether it's traumatic or not, whether it's trauma bound based or not, a great memory or not, sometimes the older we get, it's more difficult to hold on to that memory. So then our version of it may be distorted. I kind of like that element of it, but definitely thought the movie really lacked whenever it tried to do explaining and exposition when it came to logistically of how it worked. I had the most fun in the film when I was in those tense moments of like the opening scene, for example, was iconic, bro. It just throws you into like, yo, what the hell? You're running with this guy. He's in the suit, the hazmat suit. He's calling for help. You don't know what's chasing him. Like, cool, scary vibes right there. Horror vibes right there. Jump scares. What's around the corner? It really does, I think, heighten your sense of paranoia, and I think that was really cool. But then like when it gets into like the explaining why, his therapist is down there and why he, like, I think that's when it kind of suffers. I just like when I was living in the back rooms, like that whole scene of him having Cat and bro go down there to film what's happening. I thought that was pretty cool, a great little scene, getting tugged by the rope. The ending was very interesting, man. I get it in a sense, but I do think it was different. But I like that it was different. But I do have the same feeling you felt, where I think you heard so much hype about it. And again, I think the lore of the story of how the film even got made was such a big part of its
Yeah.
release that you just wanted to win. You just wanted it to win and do well, similar to Obsession, where you're just like, man, I'm just happy for these guys, bro. You know how
Yeah.
hard it is to make a film in general. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Facts.
And then when you see it, you're like, okay. Again, I had a good time. Thought it was fun. I love the luminous spaces. I love the metaphors. His wife was back there. He's an architect, so I understand that the entity didn't get his own entity didn't go after him until he because he wasn't able to accept accountability. And then when he finally did, it like took a bite of him or whatever. Like there's a lot that I thought was cool symbolically, but again, I think Obsession, if we had to, rank them, I think Obsession was a way better movie for me and something I would suggest for more people. Maybe if I had that connection, I could appreciate it a little bit more in a different way. But I'm still a little bit confused as to why the government.
The mystery was better than the movie, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Like,
a
you
great
know what I mean?
point.
Like
Yes.
the mystery of it, the story behind it, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or even how you can make up a story behind it was better than the movie because we didn't know
Mm,
what was real. So it was scary because we didn't know it was real. But now they
yes.
tried to make it real and made it into something that was just like, oh, you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like if you're gonna do that, then make it into something that's like tangible. You know what I mean? I feel like,
yeah.
but then you made it into something supernatural-ish or like
Yeah.
not even and dimensional, and it's just like, yeah,
Yeah,
it
because
took
what I
away from.
understand is that government is what they once the first person that will open the back rooms, they try to study it, and then it became a portal, right? And I'm just like, okay, so now that's what the guys in the suit they're just trying to study, but like I thought back rooms were an amalgamation of different people's memories and mental struggles. So I'm like, how are they able to access other people's back rooms? Like it's just like there's some things that just don't connect for me, but I
Yeah,
do think it's still like a cool concept, especially visually. We talk about the Blair Witch Project, and I only spoke about that because the impact that it had in terms of what it did culturally, what it did to change movies, then obviously found footage being a huge stylistic choice that, people try to copy and emulate, but it hasn't been done to the same level.
yeah,
I do think though that the Blair Witch style of filmmaking, in the sense of like the found footage sense in this film, was pretty cool. Whether Clark had the camera, he put it down, he heard Kat's voice. She was like, "Yo, look behind you." The camera got picked up. We're like, "Who picked up the camera?" Like that stuff was
and the
effective
height
for
of
me.
it and everything. Yeah, I'd like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was effective for me. But again, whenever it tried to explain what was happening, I felt like, that's where
Yeah, the
You remind me
explanations
when you
are
spoke
ruined it.
about. Remember how you used to talk about like multiverse, and it's like when you do too many things, and now you're trying to like keep up with it. That's what it reminded me of. Like
Yeah,
you guys are trying to make us make sense of something that doesn't make sense. So the point, don't even do that. Just have
yeah.
fun with it, and just like let us have fun with it.
Let's figure it out. You know what I mean?
I'm interested to see how it changes the course of movies going forward. It's already killing at the box office, like we mentioned. Do you think, if you had to answer this, what were your favorite scenes in the film?
Personally, I think that the first time he was discovering the space
Mhm.
and had to like look at each different aspect, and you just never knew if something was coming or if anything was coming, and all that stuff, and then trying to figure out where that noise was coming from and who was in control of that noise and yada yada yada. And I thought that it was just like a, I don't know. I thought that that part was very creepy, so I felt like it was nice, and it was a good way to like introduce us to, you know what I mean, an area, or the lore behind it a little bit. Like I thought it was a great job of it. So I would say that that was probably my favorite part, low key.
I like that. I think one of my favorite parts, again, I love screenplay and writing. So I like how initially when they had that first session with the therapy session where it's a therapist and Clark, and they talk about they did the role playing session of I'm your wife,
Yeah,
and he comes home. Sorry, I came home late. I was drinking and work was hard and blah blah. And you're a field architect and blah blah. I love how they ran it back in that last part in
yeah,
the back rooms, and then but at this point now she spoke to him in a different manner, and it was like she was like defending herself and telling him what it was, not what he wanted to hear. And
yeah,
I like that it was like a callback to that certain moment. Definitely a creepy scene. Man took out a man's stomach and
yeah.
served it as
That
food. Like,
was that was weird.
I was confused about all that. I do think the ending chase scene was kind of fun, trying to escape the one legged wooden Clark version of himself.
Yeah,
Do you think there's going to be a sequel? And who
I
do you
what
think is
I
the
don't know.
MVP or the sixth man of the film?
There shouldn't be a sequel because I wouldn't even know if this one was even called a movie. I'm so confused by it that I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Um, so I wouldn't say there could be a sequel because it wasn't linear enough for you to be like, okay, like how are we going to attack this as a sequel? Personally,
Mhm.
but I mean, studio heads and writers, man, there's some writers out there that can really twist anything. So, maybe they can, but I would recommend not. I would say
Yeah.
the MVP of the movie obviously would be Clark, played by Chitwell Ejiofor. I would say he's the MVP personally. I would say the monster is a six man. And the DPOY is obviously Mary, played by Renette, because she was out there just, you know what I mean, trying to be a therapist, just doing too much still. You could have easily just like, you know what I mean, left the man alone. You clearly saw he had mental problems,
Yeah.
and now you're trying to go to the store, help him out, trying to talk him through it. You know what I mean? Some things should be left alone. So I would say she's a defensive player because I would just give that to her. I don't know how to explain that. But I would give that to her.
I don't think there needs to be a sequel. I think it works best as this because it is confusing. So it adds to it. A lot of people can be. This film was hilarious because when I left the theater, bro, the chatter was hilarious. Man, were like, I don't understand what that movie was about. Yo,
Yeah,
for the first time in my life, I'm lost. Like I actually loved it. I was like, this is hilarious. I like that it still sparked conversation. You know what I'm saying? Whether people were like it was good or bad, people were definitely like, yo, did you understand? Like to the point where people try to ask me. I'm like, oh, this is what movies does. It really breaks down barriers. Now people are being social with the strangers. So yeah, very confusing movie. I don't think there should be a sequel. I like the fact that like people can take their own iterations of what they think happened. And then when it comes to the MVP, Renata, who plays the therapist, I thought she did a good job just being connected with the Backrooms before, talking about the window and how, the decisions that she made and everything, I think was definitely stupid on her part. But I like her as an actor. And then I think for the sixth man, I'm gonna go with the guy who played the cameraman. Was it Bobby?
Bobby.
Um,
I got done
or
off
whatever his name
stone.
is. Man was hilarious, bro. He was hilarious. His energy was funny. He said, "What are we doing? Research? Say that's bad. I'll go down there, babe. I'm not scared. Yo, pull me up, pull me
Could have
up."
been, could have been. Well, I don't know why it wasn't salt.
Yo, that was funny, bro. I like the energy he brought to the film. I thought it was like just a different, I guess, pitch from everybody else that was in the film. That was more kind of monotone or like chill. I like that he was like more hyper and just felt like he was in a different film.
Yeah,
It was like memorable for me. His death scene was hilarious too. So talked about these two great films. I think it was a great conversation, bro. We talk about the
yeah,
Backrooms, talk about Obsession. I think Obsession will outweigh Backrooms when it comes to like what we'll talk about in the future. But if you had to put together like a quick list of the top best top 5 best films that you've seen this year, what would your list be for the top 5 best films you've seen?
I'd have to say Obsession, Michael, Project Hail Mary. Go with Send Help. I actually enjoyed Send Help other than the nasty grossness, but I thought what's her
Mhm.
name? Rachel McAdams did her thing. I want to say the last one, based on the things I've seen, Disclosure Day so far.
Okay.
I'm very disappointed. Ready or Not too. That drew ass.
For me, I'll go Tuner. I like that movie a lot. Recently saw that. The piano, the guy who has a special hearing condition where he hears things like a heightened sense of it, and he used to play the piano. And then he used his skill as a piano tuner to eventually get himself in a situation where he cracks open safes for like a mob. And then it's like a whole situation. It's pretty tough. A little romance thriller. I would say, of course, Obsession. So I'll be number 2, Obsession, doing this thing out there. I think Obsession's a great film. I will have to go Crime 101. I like that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Hemsworth and Mark Ruffalo, Halle Berry. Thought that was a sneaky good one. Project Hail Mary. So it's at 4. Gotta put that on the list. The 5th one. I think the 5th one I'm gonna go with They Will Kill You. I like that one. It kind of felt like a Kill Bill, John Wick type of Ready or Not vibe, but with, like I said, with a black female heroine, which is something that I would love to see more of in films. So yeah, definitely excited to see some other films that are coming out soon. Yes, sir. That was another edition of The Timeout presented by Scene DMs. It was a great conversation to have with my brother Merv. Unfortunately, connection was lost, so he had to go. But we had a great conversation breaking down both these movies, Obsession and The Backrooms. Let us know what you thought about these films, what you'd rate them. And of course, we'll continue to break down some more films. There's some new movies coming out, so there'll be another episode of Scene DMs, The Timeout, coming soon. Make sure to leave a comment and subscribe to Scene DMs on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Yeah.